I'm going to be painting eyes using acrylic paint on a chunk of scrap wood. I've got this piece of 2x4 here that I painted a layer of gesso on, and gesso is an acrylic product that's a primer. You can paint it onto a lot of different surfaces: wood, paper, cardboard, canvas, of course. And I also just wanted to share where this idea came from. I had a lot of scrap wood lying around, and I was already thinking about doing an eye lesson for you. And so I was walking my dog, and those two ideas combined in my head, using the material that I had lying around, this wood, and the painting the eyes. So whoop, those came together, and I'm going to paint eyes on this chunk of wood for you. So I'm going to start by sketching the eyes onto my block of wood. You might be surprised to see me starting with black paint, but this is one of the things that I love about acrylic paint. There really are no rules to it. You can start with your dark areas and then work your light areas on top, or you can start with your light areas and work your dark areas into it. Throughout my process of creating this painting, you'll see me go back and forth between darks and lights. I've got red, yellow, brown, white, and black to work on mixing my skin tones. I actually do a lot of my color mixing right on my canvas, or in this case, my block of wood. Working with acrylic paint or tempera paint is a process of putting down layers. The edges of each layer should overlap just a little bit. So in this case, the skin tones are overlapping the edge of the frames, and then later the frames will again overlap on top of the skin tone. At this stage in my painting, I'm thinking about carving in the shadows and carving in the highlights. There's nothing quite like the feeling of freedom when I'm painting. I have nothing to worry about. If I make a mistake, I'll just let it dry and paint another layer right on top of it. Speaking of drying, that's both one of the pros and cons of working with acrylic and tempera paint. They dry fairly quickly. That works well for me. I like the speed in which I can work, laying down layers, letting them dry, and then working right on top of them again. But be mindful of the paint that's in your brushes. When acrylic paint dries, it's basically plastic, and if acrylic paint dries on your brush will be ruined. beginning of this painting process, I was using large, broad strokes. Now that I'm getting into more of the detail work, I'm using much smaller strokes and a much smaller brush, and also using a stippling technique, which is, you'll see me putting down all the little layers of dots. The little dots are stippling. Here comes one of my favorite parts, adding the highlights to the eyes. This is what really breathes life into the portrait. Thanks for watching, and have fun!